thank you everyone for coming, all 70 of you. This is quite a lot. I think this is the most actually we've had in our previous meetings. So very good to see lots of officers. Obviously, also as I said before, if you're currently on duty, please get off duty because it's not really going to be helpful if you're out on patrol. And yes, so we'll be starting now. So yes, as in the message channel, just don't say anything.
There'll be time to talk once we're done,
Yep.
guys.
At the end, we're going to have some questions. So throughout this, there may be some confusion for some. You know, it's all quite a few new things, and to save that all for the end. And yes, all right. So our sergeants have already seen this. This is the police protocol document. I'm going to link to you all, and I'm going to present it in a brief summary, going from the top to the bottom. So yes, some of it won't make sense, of course, because I'm going to explain it. And yeah, save any questions for the end. So there it is.
User was moved
all
to
of our
your
other
channel.
documents will need to be updated to have the new protocol. If we all want to open this, and once we get a lot of people on, we'll go from there. This document is basically all in RP, except for in brackets and where it says not in RP. So yes, let's all have the police protocol document open. This will be in effect basically immediately once this is done. So I'll just wait until we've got some more people have it open.
User was moved to your channel.
And then we'll go down. All right. Just wait another 10 seconds and we'll start. All right. So this is the new police protocol 2.0 we've called it. It's a new document completely, and it's been created by the current police cabinet team. So we've got our front page. That's pretty simple. If everyone wants to go to the second page where it says introduction, where I'm highlighting, go in the settings, go to view, show document outline.
User disconnected from your channel.
View, show document outline, and then on the left, you can see the outline, and you can clearly see all the sections. So that's pretty handy. So obviously, all officers must follow all police procedures, guidelines, and information as presented in this document.
User
so this
in your
is the police
channel
protocol.
timed out.
This takes priority over all other police documents. So this is the one. If we want to go to the third page, so we're just going to keep going down. This is the ranking structure, so it's pretty basic. We've got our ranks, call signs on the right, badge icons on the left. It's for general duties, state crime commands, so the detectives have their own setup. So that's pretty simple. If we go to definitions and acronyms, we've got all our definitions. Most of these they're basically just what we have at the moment. Yes, so there's all our acronyms, pretty simple. So we're just going to be summarizing through this, have a proper read after. So moving on. So we're going to go to general, page 5. So at the top, we've got our numbers here for maximum officers on duty. I would hope this is common knowledge by now. So 56 slot server, maximum is 16 cops. So currently, there should never be any more than 16 police on duty for our normal servers. If it's an event server and cabinet says otherwise, then okay. But on our normal servers, no more than 16 for the 56. And
that includes 64 slots, so it's 56 slot and above servers are 16 cops max.
Yep.
If you couldn't understand that.
Yes. On this topic, we've been doing this actually. I'm pretty happy. We've been spreading out more so. I guess there's more of us, but make sure to spread out so we're not all on the one server. So yes. Okay. Now most of these sections will look familiar. However, they've had some changes and there's some new ones. So obviously we all need a mic. We'll just scroll down to 1.2. This is new. So this is to combat there being so many officers now and so many civilians, and the self and safety risk of officers. All police must pair up. Oh.
User was moved to your channel.
Alright. As I was saying, so everyone will be required to have a police partner. So we're all going to have partners, basically. We'll see how this goes for officers wise. But we're all going to have partners. This is on the 56 plus servers. So this would work ideally well when we've got our 16 officers on duty. Anyway, so that's the main bit there. And everything else here is pretty similar. I'm just going to quickly go through this because it's going to take forever, obviously. So we've got that chain of command. On the chain of commands, make sure we're all being respectful to our higher ranks. Just common sense, really. Going down. Going to keep going. 1.18, uniform procedure slideshow. Make sure we all know that. And the rest is all pretty simple. Let's go to section 2. Just going to quickly talk about our comms here.
So go 2.2 would be the main one, guys. So 2.0 for radio communications 2.2. We're introducing a new system, okay? So rather than the current code system that we have, code 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10100, we'll be switching to a new coded response system involving 2 colors. So essentially, you would either ask for respond code blue to a situation or code red. Pretty straightforward. Code blue is non-urgent. So that would be essentially respond code blue lights only, respond code blue for a prisoner transport. Okay? You can discern from there pretty quickly what blue means. It's non-urgent. Code red would be an urgent request. Need
User in your channel timed out.
Strawberry Avenue, code red. Officers know to get there straight away. Okay? We'll be looking to update the BK system in-game to somewhat reflecting this. However, I don't think too much will be changing in the meantime. But essentially, when calling out over the radio for support, you'll be using blue and red as the main things. Now, obviously, this will take some getting used to, but we're simplifying it down to 2 codes only now, are the only 2 codes. Everything else will need to be plain English used when reporting it. Outside of that, there were no other changes here. On the protocol, your communication structure is the same. If you want to have a look, you got your vehicle unlocks on 3, weapons on 4. And we'll be addressing some things now in regards to the department changes. The rest of the protocol you guys can read on your own. Okay. So 10.10 and 11, you'll see that the SRT and highway patrol procedures are in here. So what I want everyone to do is, let me just find it, section 19, police promotions. So this is the new promotion system that is in place, okay? And we'll explain from here what's going to be happening and how this works.
User was moved to
so
your
this is
channel.
how all promotions from those ranks will follow these guidelines.
Right. So first off, obviously anyone new joining, and as most of the probationary constables, and probably most of you here would know, that when you first join, you put an application in. Obviously, you go through the orientation phase. From there, to move from probationary constable to constable, you will need to complete your basic level 1 training, which is the constable training at the moment. You must have 15 hours on comp, and it has to be 4 days since you become a probationary constable to be able to get promoted, okay? That is the only guaranteed promoted, alright? This here is requirements to be promoted, so we can look at you a lot quickly, a lot more fondly. So to move from constable to senior constable, you will need to complete what's called the basic level 2 test. You'll need to have 30 hours on comp, and it'll have to be a week since you become a constable to be able to, before you're considered eligible for the promotion. Keyword is eligible. Just because you've completed this, if you have 5 written warnings from PSE because you've been doing the wrong thing, don't expect to be promoted. You still need to behave, okay? This is, though, the base guidelines of what's required. For officers, from senior constable to increment to senior constable, you'll see now there's something called a highway patrol certification. So you complete this at the rank of senior constable. Once you get to the rank of incremental senior constable, it means you are highway patrol certified. I will explain what that means in a bit. Okay, so your required hours again. Then to go to leading senior constable, you have to complete your basic level 3, have 90 hours, and have to be a week since your promotion to incremental senior constable. Sergeants will have to complete the advanced level 1. This is a CO test. I expect most people to fail this, unless you know what you are doing, okay? So my apologies beforehand if you feel like it is too hard. I am warning you now that we are going to try and increase the standards here within PD going forward. So the current sergeants and above have already been spoken to about what we're wanting to do and how we're wanting to address things and going forward. So from here, ATC or PCS membership, this means you either have to be a trainer or part of Professional Standards Command to want to reach the rank of Inspector from Senior Sergeant. Okay? From there onwards, it's based off the work that you do in regards to that.
Yes.
So, going from the certifications, what will happen is that there's different training levels. The trainers are ready to go. The trainings are ready. Okay. So when you're ready to conduct a training, feel free to join the police lobby. Put what training you need in your name. So basic 1, put B1, basic 2, B2, highway patrol certification, put
maybe highway cert
so
or something.
highway cert. There's also going to be now, it's not written on here, but what's called an SRT certification. So we'll skip up to 10.0. This will cover everyone. So at the rank of leading senior constable, you'll be able to complete what's called tactical training. Okay? What tactical training is that it allows you to be an SRT qualified officer. So this is the changes to departments. Departments are no longer a thing. You no longer join highway. You no longer join SRT. You become certified. So as an officer, for example, who's the right rank here? Let's say, let's find a leading senior constable. All right, let's say Hawkeye, for example. Here we go. So let's say Hawkeye is a leading senior constable. Would automatically, to have got to that rank, would have to be highway patrol certified. Okay. So that means he can go on duty as highway patrol as long as he's given permission by the CO. Let's say the next day he decides that he wants to go on duty as SRT. As long as he's certified and the requirements are met, he can then patrol as SRT. Okay? So the rules and guidelines are here in 10.0 and 11.0 about who and when you can go on duty and how to display your own duty as that department. So we'll field questions in regards to that one going forward. The only real change in that one would be detectives, okay? But that's from the rank of sergeant up, so where you have to join that group if you wish to go forward. Alright.
Yes. I'll just double explain. So basically, for the departments, right? So department changes. There'll be, so everyone is in general duties. They start with, right? From probationary constable. So then you move up, you get to that training, to incremental senior constable, that one. You can then get your highway patrol certification. So highway patrol will now be a certification, a sub-command as we called it. I think on the side, it won't be a department so much. So it won't be I'm in highway patrol, I'm in SRT. It'll be I'm in general duties and I'm qualified to go on duty as highway patrol, basically. So SRT and highway patrol are both certifications, sub-commands. So it's like a certification you obtain. So you do a test / training. If you pass it, you can then go on duty as that. State crime commands, which used to be CID, the detective department, is separate. It's its own thing. So there's general duties and there's SCC. SCC people, members in there, can still go on duty as general duties, but they've got their own guidelines and protocol and stuff. They're like
User
their own
left
thing.
your channel.
It's going to be a relatively small department, SCC commands, and it'll be pretty selective from now on for sure. So yes, so just saying that again, SRT and Highway Patrol are its own commands, certifications, not departments anymore. Yes, so that's that. Hopefully that all makes sense. Pretty simple. Yep, staff will look into that. All right, so that's that one. Moving on.
moving on from that one, let me just quickly check. So the new promotion system, that's your new departments, okay? So essentially that's the main change that's being implemented going forward, is that we're looking to reduce the segregation. So specific rules in regards to those departments are listed there, okay, on that one. Now with comms, I think Silverback said we missed something. One moment. I think we addressed the new comm system already, Silverback.
Did we say 2.1.2?
2.2?
No, we didn't.
2.1.2. That's the biggest change we probably put in.
Let's do that. So if we're going to have silence, in the messages. So as Midi was saying, just quickly going back to the whole point of changing it from being High Patrol and SRT to departments to certifications is, as Midi King has said, it removes the segregation, so it's not like I'm in High Patrol, it's all general duties, and you've got the option. Now you can be SRT or you can be Highway if you want, depending on the situation. So you've got that freedom also, because we're all a team. Yes, so that was all part of the reason, remove the segregation and make it more available. So if there's a bank robbery and you're on Highway, instead of being stuck with just a shotgun, you can now go on duty as SRT if you've got the certification. So it's pretty helpful. Oh yes, and members of SCC cannot obtain the Higher Patrol and the SRT certification. If you're an SCC, you have to be totally dedicated to SCC and nothing to do with Highway and SRT. That's just the trade-off. Now, communications. So we mentioned code blue and code red. Yeah, so code blue is basically code 1, what code 1 was. So no emergency lights, no sirens, just normal patrols basically. That's code 1. So if I tell everyone to RTB, you're proceeding or responding, code blue, just normal. There should be no speeding, no breaking road rules. Code red is what code 3 and code 2 was. It's basically emergency lights and sirens is at the discretion. So if you're going through an intersection, definitely need your sirens. If you're moving up in a situation, but the CO says like to move in quiet, then you're going to turn off your siren. So the CO may just say respond code red with no sirens. So they might be specific. But yeah, it's pretty simple. Just makes it a lot more easier. And also in real life, in the other New South Wales Police Force, they also use the system. Now moving to communications, 2.12.
Yeah.
So this is pretty important. We're doing some changes to the comms after doing quite a few tests. I like to think overall it's been relatively successful. So what we're doing is, if people want to talk on the radio now, just a normal message, you have to say your call sign and then wait for the commanding officer to respond. You might have seen this tested before. So basically, this works well when there's quite a few officers on duty. If there's only 2 of you or 3 or 4, there's probably no point doing this. That'll be at the discretion of the active commanding officer. But if there's 10 of you, or 12 or even 16, 8, this will work quite well. So you say your call sign. So for example, we have Charlie 118. Then you wait for the active commanding officer. So whoever that is, always assign one. If there's more than 4 officers, should always be a commanding officer. Leave yous to sort that out. Then they will have to be proactive with this in their comms. They will then have to say, go ahead. So they'll have to say, Charlie 118, go ahead. The purpose of this is so that we're not all trying to talk at once.
User was moved to your
and there's
channel.
a bit more structure to it. So you have to say your call sign and wait for the CO to tell you to talk. So that should help. Now this is for general patrols. If there's a situation like a pursuit, you'll have whoever the main unit is, they'll be doing the call outs. Everyone else should be staying quiet as always. And they won't have to keep requesting, they should just keep going. CO will probably give them free comms. Moving on to 2.1.3, if you have something urgent to say, just say your call sign urgent, and then the CO should, tell you to go ahead. If it's urgent, but the CO is not responding for some reason, or the NCO, then you can transmit your message if it's urgent. But the CO and the NCO should be working together and sorting this out. Should be proactive. That's the main thing for comms.
That's
User
the main
joined
thing
your
for
channel.
everything from here.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff we want you to read through. I'll be blunt and honest. We're not here to hold your hand and baby you. I know it's a game. We're here to have fun. But at the same time, no, a lot of these rules are in place. Especially the patrol partner thing, just because we're trying to limit stuff to help the server as well, in terms of how many cop cars we have out and stuff like that. Before we essentially open up the questions and stuff, there's one thing I wanted to bring up with people real quick. So earlier today there was a robbery on Union Depository. Now I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble. I just want it to be known or what I saw, and essentially what happened during this robbery. So I'm going to be putting some images in the chat, one at a time, just to address stuff that when we talk about, I guess I'd call it tactical awareness more than anything for officers, okay? Right now I'm noticing a common trend where a lot of officers during a hostile situation, let's say you get like a BK99 officer down call, officers drive directly to that ping, okay? There could still be active shooters there. I've seen it where the shooters are still happening, and they drive directly to the ping, okay? For example, this is when they were chasing, it turned into a shootout, but have a look at this one here, guys. I've just got a nice little guyzo in there for everyone. Have a look at that first image. So the shootout was on that street. Inside that red circle, every red dot is a cop car that drove to that exact spot while the shooting was still happening. Okay? So in terms of spreading out, so obviously Polair's landed on the roof. I think I had to make an emergency landing if I'm not mistaken. This is when the situation is over, as EMS has arrived, but this is where the cars were. Okay? So what's happening at the moment is that we're rushing for fights. Okay? We've got a numbers advantage. We need to be able to spread out and use it. So no one's driven to that street. That would have been to the south, at the top of the picture there. Only one officer's come in from the other angle, so you got one Hilux up there. Essentially, though, we're all clumped up in a giant group. No, I know it was 10 minutes into the pursuit, but it turned into a shootout where other officers were showing up at the same time. So what's happening is that we're not essentially spreading out. So officers can easily go around and flank. Officers can turn into a situation where we can spread out. When the shootout started happening, okay, so yeah, no, I understand, like I said, I'm not trying to get anyone directly in trouble. I'm just using this as an example piece as of what I got to solve, so okay. So it's just a learning piece for everyone, because it happens, a lot of officers do it. I've been involved in shootouts where I've gotten dropped pretty early, and I just see cop cars just pile in to the one spot, and it's just like target practice for somebody, okay? The use of cover, in terms of how we're approaching hostiles as well, yeah. So the use of cover as well. So that first picture, we've got officers essentially out in the open being shot. The one behind the car, not so much, but the other two on the road. So there's, in terms of how we're moving towards hostiles, how we're trying to get towards hostiles, officers are getting too eager to peek. Okay? So essentially the suspect was down the road. So there's not much cover being used here. These officers are out in the open, okay? So they're actually in the middle of the road, out in the open, alright? Moving from there, just another example. One moment. So this is further down the road, another two officers down. So the shooter was using an alcove to the right, as you can see on that third picture I've posted, okay? Trying to use what cover
User
they
was
had.
moved to your channel.
But in terms of our situation of what was happening, that was the cover that was used. by our officers, essentially. So once again, it's officers out in the open, just running towards the shooter. So that's the main issue that we're running into, is just in terms of survivability. Now, we win most of our gunfights still through, a lot of it's just through sheer numbers, okay? But the attrition rate's getting a little high. I know a lot of these people are using assault rifles and carbine rifles and AKs, and we've got pistols and shotguns. But with the advantage of having backup units arriving, and if we were to play situations smarter, we wouldn't have as high of an attrition rate, okay? The third photo is more just highlighting where we're trying to take gunfights from. So the person up on there, it's kind of a flank, but there's still no cover. He's out in the open still. So the person on the road to his left is the one that shot him. It's not under the officer, there's a dead body. That was the man that shot the officer. But up on there still, there's very little cover being used. So you can quite easily leap fences, leap gates and stuff like that and surround areas, okay? Someone with an assault rifle, while it's a fully automatic weapon, can't fire in a 360 direction, okay? So we need to, probably the best way to say is slow things down, especially when we're on the offensive against, in tactical situations, okay? No one's really taken the time out to flank, no one's really taken the time out to get into a better shooting position a lot of the time. I saw during that gunfight, if you look at the first photo,
User joined your channel.
just above the red circle on the right, he was in that alcove, okay? You can see the body, I believe someone's over it. Officers were just running down past that Tesla, trying to run into there. So they're just lining up. So if people took the time to flank to the right, which would have been the opportune situation then, you get multiple angles on him. Otherwise, we're just running into a choke point and just causing officer deaths. So more just something to be aware of going forward, okay? I'm not trying to get people in trouble for it. I'm more just trying to highlight, because it's hard not to see from a tactical, like a bird's eye view, what's actually happening in these gunfights, right? So I wasn't involved. I purely just watched it. So more just wanting you guys to see what I saw from the top, okay? In terms of just being aware that from a different point of view, what it looks like, and why certain things are essentially turning out the way they're turning out, okay?